Okay, welcome YouTubers. This is Vicious Panda 37 and I want to talk a little bit today about the Anthem demo. So the past weekend Anthem was available publicly. I think the previous weekend it was available for certain people who had done pre-orders. It's pretty convoluted, the situation that EA has created once again, that it needs to have some sort of chart to explain all the different configurations in which you can access this demo version. At any rate, I didn't manage to access the previous week, so I was kind of pleased to see that a public version had come up this weekend. It was a game that it looked really exciting when it was first showed off. The graphics looked amazing, and let's be honest, who doesn't want to jet around like Iron Man? I certainly do. So I thought anyway that this would be it might be a good alternative as well to Destiny, which had gotten a bit stale. The content lately has been pretty lacking. I for one like the expansions to come out and extend the story. I like there to be a bit of a significant campaign, and certainly the last couple of expansions have been a bit of a letdown. Now Forsaken was fantastic, but things like the Niobe Labs and stuff that came out recently, where it was just a few extra puzzles that were gated behind a ridiculous light level, was pretty disappointing. But I digress. So I was really hoping that Anthem was going to be good, and I was really excited to check it out. So I've dropped into the game, and initially it looked alright. I found the menus were a little bit difficult to navigate, and one of the minor complaint I did have was I just could not seem to resize the picture to fit on the TV. So some of the elements on the controls, like the compass and things at the top, were off the screen, and I could really only just see the little bottom part of it. I did find that made navigating quite difficult. I've had a bit of a play around with the TV, but I wasn't able to successfully do it. Some games usually offer you the option to set the boundaries of the screen, so I'm kind of hoping that might be some functionality that will turn up in Anthem before the game gets released. But as people have pointed out, this is a demo, it's not a beta, so I'm not expecting that too much is going to vary from this point. So I imagine there's probably going to be a few patches and things like that are going to hit day one. I certainly did run into some problems with the game. Quite a few people have noted that the server crashes or kicks them off. I certainly had that happen 3 times in the time that I tried, which was pretty frustrating when you're in the middle of an expedition and you basically bumped back to the beginning again. So that's pretty frustrating. There was one hard crash that I did have as well, where the entire game literally just crashed. I was just playing it along, and then it just went and then dropped me back to the Xbox menu. So that was not great. I certainly hope that's something that they're going to get on and fix soon as well. The other one I did see too, while we're getting our complaints out of the way, was I got through the mine mission, and we got to a room with a big spider, and it said wait for the door to open, and nothing happened. There was no enemies, and the door never opened, and we certainly weren't able to force the door open either, so that was frustrating. So there's definitely a few bugs there at the moment. Overall, how did I find the gameplay? Well, the suits weren't too bad. I initially only had access to one suit. I did find that the weapons seem to be consistently underpowered, and a lot of other people have commented on this as well. I wasn't leveling up all that quickly, so I'm sort of trying to determine how grindy the game is going to be at this point. But in terms of weapon power and effectiveness, it's definitely not on par with Destiny. You can just unload clip after clip after clip into guys and they don't die. So there's certainly a high degree of bullet sponginess in the game at the moment. I guess where the action is more in the power-ups, so the various modifiers and things that your suits have. So the grenades, definitely quite effective. They do have a recharge time, but it's not ridiculously long. I would say it's probably shorter than Destiny. Certainly your super seems to take quite a while. The one in the suit I had fired out hundreds of little micro missiles, which was quite good. So you could sort of carpet bomb a whole bunch of guys if you could get them all in a group together. So that was quite effective. One thing I did like was the suit. I could colour it and make it look like I wanted, and naturally I ended up styling mine to look like Iron Man. That was pretty good. The mechanic that I think is the most valuable mechanic in the game, the thing that really sets it apart, is the flight. Unfortunately, they keep taking the power to fly away from you all the time due to things like overheating and stuff like that, or you get hit by something that overheats your suit and you crash to the ground and so on. I find that quite a baffling choice. Now, I understand that they want to limit the effectiveness of flight, but I spent a lot of time having to land and things, and not being able to fly very, very long, or being left on the ground while I'm waiting for cooldowns or looking for water to cool down, and it just really undermined the fun of that mechanic. The flying itself is pretty awesome. I mean, being able to switch from forward motion to sort of a hover as well was fantastic. I mean, it looks amazing. He does a superhero landing when he lands. Very cool. But having that get taken away from you constantly is pretty annoying, really. And really, to be honest, that's the only mechanic that really differentiates Anthem from sort of any other game, really. That's the most unique thing, I think. So that's a little disappointing. I'm hoping that maybe that will get rebalanced. I certainly would like to be able to fly more, and not have to keep landing and things like that. It opens up a whole other dynamic to the game as well. Being able to zip around in the air and move over to different vantage points and things like that. And honestly, being stuck on the ground, the game was really slow moving. One of the things that particularly drove me up the wall was Fort Tarsus. I've seen other people complain about it as well, but it really is very slow to move around that environment. Especially when you've got to get around the hub and interact with different people and go to different locations and things like that. I really don't want to be slogging around there with a clomp, 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 clomp sound that he makes at low speed. At least with Destiny, you can run, you can jump, you can take little shortcuts between locations and things like that just to speed up the flow when you're moving through that area. But you just can't do that. All you can do is walk in Fort Tarsus, and frankly, it drives you nuts. Just sucks all the momentum out of the game. So that's something I really didn't like very much. Now, what limited amount of the story there was, I really couldn't tell you. I've still got no real idea what the game is about, but the demo did have a little section of story where you're interacting with some bald guy called Matthias, and he's goofing around with some sort of artifact that they found. I don't know anything about the planet, the location, the people, the artifact, nothing. There is stuff in sort of their version of the grimoire, I guess, from Destiny. I think they call it the Cortex. But honestly, I didn't sit and read through a lot of that stuff anyway. Maybe that's something I might do later on. But I was kind of expecting that there would be some kind of introduction to the world, some kind of story building and things like that in the game. I really do hope that that's something that's going to be in the final product. I know it's a demo, it's very much chopped down, but it would have been nice to have gotten some kind of introduction to the world through the demo. I don't really know what they were thinking by not doing that. There also seemed to be quite a bit of functionality in Fort Tarsus that was disabled. There seemed to be a lot of vendors and things like that you could interact with, but they would mostly just come up and say it's not available yet. So it's very difficult to get an idea of what extra sort of content is in the game, and what sort of other things those vendors are going to offer. In terms of missions, there were some expeditions. I think there's 3, maybe 4 that you could do. And then there's sort of a free roam, sort of free play type area. From my understanding, there's no kind of multiplayer combat type thing, a la deathmatch or any of those sorts of things in the game at the moment, and I don't know that there's any plans for that to happen. So I don't think that'll be happening. I do like, one of the things I do like, because I realise I've complained a lot, I have to say I did like the multiplayer, the fact that it hooked you up with other participants. I think that was quite good. It was, it was nice to have an option to play with other people, as opposed to having to just have your own friends if you don't have people that you play with all the time. I think one of the mechanics that I found a little bit difficult is when you get injured, because the suits do feel like they aren't as tough as they maybe could be. I certainly, later on when I unlocked the heavy suit, the sort of Hulkbuster type thing. I sort of expected to be able to soak up a bit more damage than I was, and I really never felt like that. I was often left in a disabled suit, and at that point you're very much stuck waiting for somebody else in your team to rescue you. So I did have some reasonable experiences with that. I did have people would come and get me and things like that, and that was quite good. Occasionally though, you know, they just totally go off in their own direction and leave you to it. So you know, that's not great, and I don't really know what to do in that situation because I couldn't find any way to let me out of the game, or other than quitting the game, to let me out of the expedition, or you know, to get back to the hub and sort of go again. So you're very much just kind of stuck waiting then and sort of looking at what other people are doing. So I don't know that I like that mechanic very much. I would have liked to have seen if the suits could have some sort of cooldown that they would repair themselves or whatever, and you could get back up and keep going again, rather than being stuck purely waiting for somebody else in your team to come over there and rescue you. And you know, hopefully they don't get in a situation where they're rescuing you and then they get pummeled and they're down and they're waiting for somebody too, because that did happen sometimes. There's certainly a range of bigger enemies as well, which is quite cool. But you know, yeah, they're very bullet spongy. I mean, some of them I couldn't even find like a clear kind of tactic for defeating them. There's like a guy with a big shield. I think you could, if you could get around behind him, you could sort of pummel a little tank thing on his back. But yeah, he was quite difficult. Whereas, you know, I'd hope that maybe you could overwhelm him. He might drop the shield or lose the shield, or you know, something like that, or run the shield down. But they never really sort of seem to weaken. They just sort of suck up all the damage till they don't. So yeah, that's a thing. There's also sort of a lot of hordes of different enemies as well. And really, that's mostly what the gameplay is basically go somewhere, soak up a whole bunch of guys, maybe collect a few things, put them in, you know, deposit them in some sort of vault or whatever, soak up a bunch more guys, you know, damage from a bunch more guys, navigate to the next place. Rinse, lather, repeat, sort of over and over again. So it's very hard to see at the moment what kind of variety in gameplay might exist, whether or not there are other sorts of modes or other different mission types and things like that. I'd certainly be interested to see what the free roam might become. At the moment, it's probably got less functionality than Destiny does. And yeah, look, I know Destiny's been through a number of evolutions and things like that. I get that. That's fine. But you know, I don't know. I'd like Anthem to be a little bit more upfront about where they're going, what the plan is, and that sort of thing. Oops, left my phone on. So yeah, just there's a lot of ifs hanging over Anthem at the moment. I really want it to be successful. I really want it to be a good game. At the moment, I feel like it's fair to middling. I certainly wouldn't rush out to buy it right now, and I'm certainly not going to pre-order it, which is a shame. Oh yes, the other thing that's really sort of hanging over it too is the microtransaction system, and that's really critical. I know a lot of people say, you know, microtransactions are only cosmetic, they don't affect the gameplay and things like that, but they kind of do. And the fact that this game is as grindy as it is at the moment too makes me wonder how hard it's going to be pushing on microtransactions. We've already seen some stuff leaked in the last week or so where they were alluding to sort of, I think they were saying $20 skins, so doubtless for New Zealand and Australia it'll probably be $40 for a skin. I think that's about what we pay for a Fortnite skin at the moment, which, let's be honest, is ridiculous for a skin. You know, and people are saying that you should be able to earn them and things like that, but you know, if the grindiness is just too high, you know, of course it's going to motivate people into dumping money into the game and stuff. So for me, that's a huge negative. I mean, I already pay a lot of money for a game as it is. I mean, you know, I have to laugh a little bit when you see Americans complaining all the time endlessly about a $60 AAA title, but you know, in Australia we pay $100, sometimes more, 120. You know, I think there's even an edition of Anthem that's like 160 or something. So you know, it's not great for us to get that and then get pummeled on top of that for microtransactions and add-ons and all the rest of it as well. So I'm very much going to adopt a wait and see kind of attitude to this game. I really want it to be good. I'd love to give it the benefit of the doubt, but at the moment, I don't know. It's got a few problems, and it seems to not have a heck of a lot in it, and who knows? Who knows? I noticed some other people have alluded to the fact that the graphic fidelity is not as schmick as it was when they first demoed it, and I think that's probably a fair call. That kind of makes me wonder whether the initial E3 demo where they showed it off was, a hard-canned, pre-rendered thing, which I know they swore black and blue it wasn't, but it definitely doesn't look as good as it did in there. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out. It's really hard to trust EA these days. So. Okay, so I think that's enough feedback about Anthem. I think there's definitely some good there. I did have some fun with it when it wasn't crashing and playing up. There's a few niggles and things like that, and a lot of question marks hanging over it. So, if you're interested in it, check it out. Certainly, if you can get the demo at the moment, check that out while you can. I probably would not recommend pre-ordering it at the moment. I would just wait and see. I'm gonna check out the release date reviews for it and see what happens there. Keep an eye on the microtransaction situation as well, which, if you're listening, EA, it's a situation that has driven me away from a number of other games, including Battlefield, Call of Duty, and things like that. Although there are some issues with everybody having to make games like in a battle royale style, like Fortnite. I'm kind of not interested in that. So that is one thing I do like about Anthem. It isn't Fortnite. So there you go. So, to check the prices online at the moment, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 in Australia is $100 to pre-order, and it's $120 for the Legion of Dawn edition, which is, I think it comes with some skins and a few in-game add-ons and bits and pieces, so if that's something you're into. And I think there's a collector's edition guide as well for $60, which is coming, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so if you like the review, please leave some comments below and let me know. I'm trying to get these to go better. I've made some improvements to the audio quality, and I'll keep working on getting better at making these. If you found the review interesting and you want to comment, feel free to leave some comments below and I'll try to reply to them. I'd certainly be interested to know what you thought of Anthem. And click like and subscribe and all the rest of the YouTube things that you need to do. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.